I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jose Grijalva,
Here.
Ms. Alex Boneo, Ms. Anel Lopez,
Present.
Mr. Pete Cordova,
Present.
Mr. Michael Valdenegro,
Present.
Mr. Luis Pedrosa, interim city manager,
Present.
Ms. Monica Miranda,
Present.
Mr. Adam Drake is excused.
Second item on the agenda, persons wishing to address the committee in writing or verbally on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any requests?
None.
Number 3, approval of minutes for June 18th, 2020 and September 1st, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Ms. Anel Lopez and seconded by Mr. Pete Cordova. Any discussion? I know it's a controversial subject. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jose Grijalva,
Yes?
Ms. Alex Boneo,
Here.
oh. Ms. Alex Boneo, present at 5:31. Mr. Adam Drake excused. Ms. Anel Lopez,
Here.
Mr. Pete Cordova.
Yes.
Motion, was that a, I know you said yes and no, but did you mean yes, or yes for the motion, for the vote?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Motion passes. Thank you. Fourth item on the agenda, the presentation discussion of second quarter financial update for fiscal year 2020-2021. Mrs. Miranda?
Yes. We're going to be presenting the first half of the fiscal year, which would be the first and second quarter, July through December of 2020-2021. Can you hear me?
Is the mic on? I don't know. It is, no?
It's just really low.
It's really low.
The first slide is our general government cash position as of December 31st of 2020. The general fund reserve is at $6,020,627. Our restricted reserves, our HERF is at $840,911. The CARES Act capital projects reserve is at $707,396. The fund balance capital projects that were recently approved are at $500,000, and then we also set aside the contingency reserve, debt reserve at $1 million. Capital projects is at $58,258. The RICO fund is at $266,893. Our debt service fund is at $128,091. The Alex Black fund is at $145,304. Insurance claims reserves are at $597,850, and the police auction fund is at $705 for a total restricted reserve of $4,245,408, and a combined general government at $10,266,035. Sorry. This is a slide that shows the reserves, our limits that we're supposed to have after policy. In general fund, we're supposed to have a 45-day operating reserve of $1,782,493, a capital reserve of $1,463,708, and debt service of $1,274,078, for a total reserve of $4,520,279. Currently, our general fund reserve is at $6,020,000. we're actually over, what the minimum amount is supposed to be of, at $1,500,348. This is just kind of like a pictorial representation of the reserve as we've gone through the year. As you can see, in 2012, we were at a little over 2.9, and we've gone up, and then in 2019 went down a bit, but now we're going back up again. This slide is our sales tax for 2021 from July to December. And this is the adjusted without the 1 cent sales tax. So by adjusted, we mean the way we're receiving our sales tax from the Department of Revenue, it's not exact to where we are actually at because they have like a delay. They have a delay in how they send us the taxes. And so we split it out and try to make it to where you guys can get an accurate picture of where we actually are every month.
Monica, can you explain the presentation that went out versus there was some changes?
Oh, on the
Yeah.
reserves?
Right.
I'm
yeah.
sorry, yes, the original presentation that we sent you showed the CARES Act capital projects, fund balance capital projects, and contingency reserve debt, actually in the general fund reserve, so it was showing at 8 million. So we actually split it out and restricted it because those are actually restricted funds that are set aside for specific uses. Council recently approved the fund balance capital projects at 500,000 and then the contingency reserve debt at 1 million. So we wanted to show you guys an exact picture of where we are general government that's unrestricted versus restricted. Any questions on that?
Can you remind me what the reserve stands for?
Those are our seizure funds.
Seizure.
Maybe
Oh, okay.
Greg, I don't know if it stands
Oh,
for.
that's okay, I just needed, I
Okay.
just have an idea.
Police
I don't
seized
know the
funds.
exact-
I just couldn't remember what it
And,
was.
you know, Alex is a new member, so she probably needs an explanation. That those are funds that can only be used for the purchase of police equipment. So we have to segregate those funds out.
Okay.
And
And the
Because-
Alex Black Fund also
Yes.
is, you know what that is?
No, I was gonna ask.
It's a fund that was set aside by a retired fire chief, I believe it is, and he set it aside specifically for to help families of firefighters who lose their life on the line of duty.
Yes, to help with those expenses, you know, for the families. So those are restricted funds as well. He made a very generous donation to the city and allocated that funding to only be used for that purpose. So we have to keep that in our coffers and restrict it that way.
How long has that project fund been in existence?
Oh, about, I want to say 4 or 5 years.
Okay, not too
Yeah,
long.
so it's earning a little bit of interest there. Thankfully, we haven't had to use it at all, but it sits there just to assist in those cases.
does the CARE Act's funds, do they expire at some point? Do we have to use them by some point?
No.
Any more questions on that slide? Very sensitive. Okay, and so back to this slide, as you can see, we had a slight dip in November, but we went ahead and went back up to $543,430 in sales tax collection. This slide is more of a month-to-month comparison compared to last year where we are. As of July through December, we're at $3,181,211 in sales tax collected, compared to $2,743,193 at last year.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Ms. Lopez?
So what do you, because typically December, where I noticed that if you go back to the previous slide, we were only up 7.3% versus the other months.
what do you think the driver of that was, that we didn't have such a significant increase?
You'll see it in January.
Okay.
We should start seeing the sales tax from,
So this is not
this is
up to
just
date.
July through December.
Collected, so are you talking about like Christmas?
Well, I'm thinking December is typically the best
Yeah.
month that our sales tax
We collect that in January, because
Okay, so this is
those
not
taxes are filed in
up to-
January.
okay,
Yes,
updated.
so it does not include our Christmas one.
So technically, to Ms. Lopez's point, because it was so low in December, that's actually November's.
It's actually November.
It's actually November's.
Yes.
But even then.
November's
that's pretty low.
activity, business activity, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And if you go back to the other chart, Monica, the one on the previous slide, if you see that peak right there on the green,
Yeah,
that's Christmas right there, as you
okay,
can
so
see.
we'll see it.
We'll
in
see
the
it in
next
the
quarter.
next quarter,
Okay.
right. So that's a good indication there as to how we're performing compared to last year. But you can see how it goes through those peaks and valleys typically
Right.
because of just the nature of
Okay.
business.
This slide is the same as the one we just went back to, except this one is not taking out the 1-cent sales tax. So this is the actual amount that was collected, including the 1-cent sales tax increase.
Moving forward, we will now start comparing apples to apples because we started collecting the 1-cent sales tax in September of 2019.
Oh, okay.
So now, I mean, that's what we've been having to adjust to make sure, we take out the 1 cent to make sure that we comparing apples to apples. But now that we have the same basis of comparison, now we won't need to be making that adjustment anymore.
Supervisor Negro?
Was there a change for the online purchases? Because I know you once said in city council that a lot of those funds now, where before there wasn't a lot.
Exactly,
For the
yes.
COVID.
And you'll see that, I think in the coming
Yes,
slides, right,
there's
Monica?
another slide.
Where you'll see that category as to how much we're bringing in online retail sales tax. That was, as I mentioned, about a year and a half ago, the law changed that online retailers now needed to remit sales taxes to their jurisdictions where they're selling to, such as your Amazons, those type of retailers were not necessarily forced to charge sales tax. Sometimes they would do it as them being good corporate citizens. Sometimes, and some retailers have always charged it. But now the law stated that if you're doing more than $100,000 in business in that particular state, you're forced to remit sales tax to the jurisdictions where you're delivering to. So it was key for us in getting that additional revenue. You'll see it right now.
And again, this is a breakdown comparison of month to month, including the 1-cent sales tax. We didn't deduct it out of there. Total sales tax July through December of 2020 is $4,286,346, which is roughly a 33.4% increase compared to last year, year to date. This is another, just a quick table that shows you 1920 compared to 2021, the amount of difference each month, percentage of difference, the budgeted amount, and then the difference budget versus actual. So you can see it's the 33.4% compared to last year, and about 35% more than where we were budgeted.
And if I may ask, and our spending levels because of COVID we've been very conservative with them, right? So, I mean, a lot of this has been smart with, city spending, but also with our economy improving. So we've been really sort of a balanced approach that has helped us, in our situation here.
And here here is the spreadsheet that Luis was talking about, the table that shows the different categories. Current year to date compared to last year to date. And as you can see, the use tax, you'll see a significant increase. We were at 128, 368 last year, and this year we're at 355, 947. So it's about 177% more.
And Monica, if I may, if you look at the second to the last category, the marketplace, facility, REM, retail sales, those are the online sales taxes right there. If you look at it, it's 210,000 versus 32,000 the year before. And what Monica was referring to, use tax, some online retailers continue to file on their use tax category, so they're starting to get used to the new category. So that's why we do see an increase on the use tax versus this one, but they will start moving along and filing under the correct category, but it's a pretty significant increase. And also we got to keep in mind that this is COVID time, where a lot of people were probably doing more online shopping than typical, with having to be home a lot of the time and not having that accessibility as it was before. So it's something that we kind of expected.
Do you have any questions?
I'm curious about the advertising that it went up 1,300. Is that with that we've done marketing wise with the booklets that we had, the tip of my tongue,
The brochures?
yeah, the brochures. Thank you.
So advertising tax dollars are when somebody rents a billboard, you pay that advertising sales tax. Whenever you take out an ad on the paper, you get charged sales tax. There's different varieties that way. There's very little activity going on in this case. We really would need to look at who those vendors are to really disseminate what it is, and really this is not divulging specific taxpayer information. Is something we cannot do, but we are allowed to do cumulative amounts and tell you a little bit about what's going on. But we know that this activity has always been, at those approximate levels, not really a lot of activity happening there. So.
What about the hotel and motel? Was it doing up? That was with the factor with the border wall workers, or
Yes.
was it more?
The moment that they put that stop order, our hotel, all cancellations for a full hotel. So I'm pretty sure that impacted the other hotels around us as well. I don't know if you guys have already seen the vacancies in the RV park.
Yes.
If you're already taking that into account as well, that is going to be, where does that fall in that category as far as the RV rentals?
So the
of
RV,
the golf course?
that one goes into rentals.
Oh, just like the residential rental?
Right, they're not
Yeah.
considered the hotel motel.
But what we have seen, and which was really good, is immediately after that announcement of the stop order, because I don't know how many people they laid off, and all the subs just stopped coming into town. So that's going to also affect our restaurant and bar as well. So we need to start thinking about that. But immediately what I saw a shift in was tourism. Snowbirds are traveling again. We're starting to see a lot of drivers, but people driving in-state because nobody wants to fly right now. So as soon as that happened, I filled up the hotel the next week.
Wow, that's
So,
great.
but we really need to continue that other focus is where are we going to bring in more people coming into town that's going to drive our restaurant and bar, it's going to drive our hotel motel. So when you said about advertising, even though it's a completely different category, I mean, I think that's going to be very critical because there's locals that are just traveling from an hour away, 2 hours away.
Okay.
So we're losing this business, but we need to focus on the shift and how we're going to bring in the rest of it. And we're starting to see that. And hopefully it's not just for this month, but we're seeing a lot more Idaho from Minnesota coming in as
Well,
well.
that's a very interesting perspective, now, and thank you for sharing that, because that's important, because for us, we've been focusing on, okay, we're gonna lose the contractors, which we know have, given us a good impact to our economy. What we were looking forward towards is COVID kind of trending down, we hope. Also, hopefully with that, the border reopens and we start to kind of normalize that way to where we were before. So they may not come hand in hand, like you were saying with the tourism, like that came really nicely, but hopefully that's what the trend looks like for us, is that as these guys start to leave, that hopefully COVID starts to, taper down and the border reopens once again. Because that's the other factor that we're seeing, and it's going to be a challenge, is if that border continues to be operating the way it is, it's gonna affect us. So by them being here, we kind of saw them taking up some of that lost revenue that would come from across the line. So you'll see right now how we ended up this quarter, but going into the second half of our fiscal year, we're gonna be very cautious because of just them leaving us and really COVID still lingering around. We're gonna be very, very cautious as to how we proceed the second half of the year.
And if I may add, this is why it's important, when we go out there and talk to people, constituents, we have to also think about what if that 1 cent sales tax wasn't in play, where we would be right now with the border closed, with the wall workers leaving. This is a little bit of revenue that, really, didn't help us not be in a huge financial hole. That's something that, I think it's important for the city to, tell the people that, we're in a really good position right now where we're not panicking because the border wall people are leaving and because the border's not closed. If we didn't have that 1 cent sales tax, that'd be a different story. Where would we be at this point? So, again, to the finance committee members that made the difficult decision, this is, so you can see that the finance committee has a big role when it comes to the city, and, it's ongoing. So, thank you.
Oh, just a quick comment. Following on what he said, I also, as I talk to people around, I think as the vaccination establishes a little bit more, people are going to lose the fear of going out and just hanging out. I mean, they might go and, go to the store and purchase the basics and go home, but when you're in there entertaining, hotel and stuff, and it's understandable, people are not going and hanging out. It's more out of necessity than wanting, but as I talk to more people around town, everybody's comment is, just wait until I get vaccinated and then I can, be a little bit more out there in my community, whether it's volunteering, like the cleanup. I talked to a couple people and said like, oh no, I'm not vaccinating. So it's not only for fun, but also just community involvement at large. I think it's going to be positive. I'm hoping that one more month when they go to the next phase of vaccination of 1B or 1C, I think we all are going to feel more comfortable going out and spending money and spending time just being outdoors in the community. So, yeah, they left, but hopefully, as you're saying, with COVID vaccination, we are all, because I'm not even, myself hanging out there as much. So I think it will get better. I think next month. I want to believe next month. That's what I keep telling myself every week. Like, no, next week. No, 1 more week. No, but everybody's talking about vaccines. Like, oh, wait until I get my vaccine and then, I'm going to go out. So that has a lot to do with how the money will come in, definitely. Local or outside.
Right.
And we're hoping for that, but also planning for, not, or possibly extending that. That's why we're, again, as Mr. Grijalva mentioned, we're not in a bad position or a position of panic. We are, I think we're taking the proper steps right now. The other thing that I mentioned that we're also focusing in on is a stimulus deal. that can be coming down, possibly in March, is what we're hearing, that could both bring those more stimulus to our residents as well as the city. Cities and towns have also expressed, a need, and there could be a possibly some cash relief for cities and towns. So we're also keeping an eye on that.
Mr. Chair, I have another question. The commercial rental, so we're up 80%. What in particular is driving such a high percentage in commercial rental?
Is that, the Gata and all that?
But they've
That's
already
a good
been here.
question.
But I mean, that's existing. It's not new from a year-over-year standpoint. What's driving that 80% to 80%?
I'll have to do a comparison
Okay.
of the reports.
Mhm.
I won't be able to give you, like Lee said, the taxpayer information,
Right,
but I can
but
kind of see.
did a new business come into town, or are we renting more commercial properties that were vacant before?
Yeah.
So like, is it industry coming in?
We
What's
can find out.
driving? When I hear commercial, I'm thinking industry.
Yeah.
So did we have a bigger industry, something come into town that maybe is, no?
Not
Nothing
that I'm aware
Our
large?
property was bought
So-
by local owners, like Sun Valley Fork. That was purchased by Mr. Mendoza, and other property for the port of entry to the.
But weren't they already there? So they would have had to
That property
already.
was owned by Lawley, who had turned it over to, I guess, to
But this
real
is,
estate people.
but this is rental.
Well, that's,
Right. And that's
something-
outside of city limits as well, so we wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
count that.
so anyhow, so just.
We'll look into
curious
that.
It's
That's-
such a high percentage.
That's a good point. We'll look at it
Yeah,
and
what's driving that?
report back.
Because that's something, I mean, that wouldn't have to be with the border wall project, because they're driving more of the residential rental market
Correct.
than the commercial.
What I could think of is maybe the RVers are filing under commercial since it's an RV
Ah.
park. And maybe they aren't classified as residential. They're classified as a commercial establishment leasing out spaces for
Oh, okay.
residential purposes. So that's what came to mind, but we can confirm that.
Okay, or is it office space? I mean, just curious.
Mhm.
Okay.
Something to do. Look into.
Any more questions? Okay, this is a breakdown of our funds, the revenues and expenditures and any variances for the year. General fund is at a variance of $571,515 in the black. The HERF is at negative $349,158, and that's because of the fund balance covering the capital project. LTAP is at $143,276 in the black. Capital projects $4,116. Self-funded insurance, which is our insurance fund, is at $72,844. The airport is at $14,512. Water department is at $148,614 in the black. Sewer, $607,481. Sanitation is at negative $37,126, and the golf is a wash. So total funds, revenue is $16,719,648. Our expenses, mid-year are $15,543,574, and our variance is at $1,176,433 in profit.
And Monica, if it's okay, just for the purposes of our new member, just to explain a little bit of the funds. HERF, that's our streets fund. That's where we get money from the gas tax. And that's a formula that's calculated at the state level and distributed amongst all cities and towns in the state. We currently had a fund balance, meaning that it's carryover funds or savings from prior years, and we're using it to do some street improvement projects. So that's why that fund is in the red, because we're using prior monies to make those improvements. LTAF is actually our transit fund. That's our public transportation, our bus system. that is funded by the federal government in part, and the city uses other partnerships to pay for the matching component. Capital projects is all major capital investments in the city, such as, like I said, streets or building renovations or equipment purchases, things like that, that have a useful life. Monica mentioned the self-funded insurance. We fund our own insurance. We administer that on our own. Instead of hiring a company that can insure us, we insure our own and pay the claims out as they come using our broker. So we manage that here. It's worked out very well for the past, I want to say, 5 to 7 years that we've been doing that. Our airport fund is obvious water, sewer, sanitation, and golf. Golf will always be a wash because golf is currently being operated by the Municipal Property Corporation. That's a separate entity of the city. It's its own board, and the city basically subsidizes that operation. So it basically transfers out the expenses that are needed. That's why you see a wash basically come there.
I have a question on sanitation is always the one that's low, right? Where we sort of balance it out with water.
No,
Or is
no,
it
actually sanitation has been a very healthy fund in the past. What has happened lately is tipping fees at the transfer station have gone up. I believe we're also invested in a new garbage truck. I'm not sure if that was this fiscal year. So that's why you see a big capital investment. We didn't need to go out for debt for that because we had the cash within the fund. So that is a good thing, actually. Basically our enterprise funds, which is water, sewer, and sanitation, are funds that are typically in the black for the most part.
And this is a 3-year comparison of the general fund variance, the shortfall, or the overage for the past 3 years. So in 2019, we were at negative 275, 182. It started going up in 2020, 690,435, and then in 2021, we're at 571,005. So a slight decrease in 2021, but again, the additional expenses that we've incurred and everything.
And, what we did was, part of our analysis there was, besides being good on sales tax for the first half of the year, we were also able to incur salary savings. The major part was three police positions that were vacant during the first half of the year, pretty much, right, Craig? For the most part. And we had the marketing and communication specialist position vacant, the grants coordinator position vacant, and admin assistant for HR that was vacant. So we had some salary savings there incurred for that period. Since then, those positions have been filled, thankfully, but it did provide about $330,000 in salary and benefit savings for the first half of the year.
Are there other positions that we're looking to fill for either the next half or the next year that might affect this, that we have openings in?
City manager?
You sure about that?
I believe we have some vacancies in, maybe a vacancy in fire. How many do you have, Craig?
We have one sworn and one civilian.
Two to fill there in police. I think That's it. We're excited about the new positions that, or the new folks that we've hired. They hit the ground running. Our new grants coordinator is really excited to be working with us and is already, just making applications already and seeing what's out there. Our marketing and communication specialist has also started and is really just, again, hit the ground running and coming up with ideas as to, we want to come up with a newsletter to inform the public as to what's going on. So lots of things are coming out of there. So we're excited for these two new positions and what they're able to bring.
Who's the new marketing specialist?
Nubia Romo, she's a local.
And the grants writer is local, right?
Semi-local, he's from Hereford, so he's very excited and just great attitude coming in and very excited to help us out.
So did we have a follow-up on that feasibility study that was done in that forum that we had with the federal government on the...
Downtown revitalization?
Yes, that one.
We are going to have a work session on March 31st.
Okay.
So we will be presenting that to the mayor and council. They have finalized the report already, the final report, and they want to come in and just present the findings to the mayor and council. So March 31st is our scheduled meeting to do that.
So is the grant writer going to be focusing on those grants that are available through the federal government that were mentioned in that workshop that we had?
Yes, we've already picked up some of those leads.
Okay.
We're focusing in on port of entry, infrastructure grants, water sewer infrastructure. I believe we are looking at a downtown grant that can help us with the streetscape, sorry,
Okay.
that we are currently in design. So I know we're looking at those. We're also looking at USDA. They fund water and sewer, broadband, many different areas, what USDA can fund for rural areas. So those are a few leads that we picked up on.
I'm not sure if y'all saw from APS that program that they have right now about the electric cars, that you can get the charging stations. Is that something that the city has taken into consideration? No? Is this
Thank you,
a
no.
bad topic?
No, I brought it up to the previous city manager, and at the time, it cost the city $5,000 for charging stations.
It's
which
free
is
right
nothing.
now.
Well, if it's free now, that's even
Yeah,
better.
we can look at, I don't know, something you might want to bring up at council, but APS sent us, because we're a business, an email about them doing it for free. You just have to pay for the electricity.
Right.
I think that's a great attraction to bring tourism and people, and you have, the most who have an electric car are gonna be a tourist coming in, and I think that's a great attraction, and especially if APS is offering that for free right now. You just have to pay for the electricity that they use to charge the station. So maybe that can be brought up at a council meeting at a different point, but, when we think about bringing in more people, because it's a map that they get, that those who own an electric car, they can map out where there's a charging station, and if there's one just down the road, they'll stop, charge their car, they'll go eat, maybe they might spend the night, they'll look, so I think that would help bring in a little bit more of attraction to modernize, and technology is so important in these rural communities.
Yeah.
So,
We'll look into that. Yeah.
And it gives our residents an incentive to go electric instead of just saying, well, if I don't have a car, and that gives, and it puts us on the map at the same time.
Exactly, because we're so far out. So who would drive further, another half an hour from Bisbee, and they could say, oh, I can drive there, I can charge my car, and I can stay in Douglas, and then maybe go to Portal, that's an hour away, that there's not going to be a charging station. So it's a good midpoint here for those, that type of
Mr. City Manager.
I have a quick comment. For the grant writer person, I know it's job's probably to get, money to the city from all these grants, but do you think it's possible, to have a collaboration with the nonprofit agencies out there? Because I think there's a lot of nonprofit agencies that would qualify for prevention programs. There's so much money out there, but they don't have official, like a 501c3 established organization that would do like the managing of the grants. Maybe there's like a small section of the grant writer that could maybe even just have conversations with all these agencies, and maybe there's a potential collaboration in terms of grant, because I know that all the administrative costs get assigned to the people who hold the grant. So that could be another little line of revenue, but the actual agency that provides all the promised things in the grant are the organizations. And I'm asking because there's one organization that I've been talking to and I've been trying to get him to apply, for example, for this grant. It's called York Free Communities Grant. That is $1 million for 5 years. And I think this organization will meet all the criteria, but again, they need an official, you know what I mean? If there's an official maybe partnership or help through the grants department, you guys can manage the grant, they can do their job, and then you guys get all the administrative fees, which are not very complicated. But maybe something like that along those lines. I know you're all based on infrastructure and all the physical stuff, but I think there's a lot of potential to bring in money too through the city to all this nonprofit.
I think on that, we need to look at it on a case-by-case basis. We need to weigh, what the grant writer has, or is capable of managing, as well as what, as far as the city and how it can work with the nonprofits and be fair to all of the nonprofits and make sure, because if we are, opening ourselves up that way, we might open ourselves up too much that we really can't take in and start saying, wait a second, I really can't handle this, and picking and choosing. So we need to be very careful as to what we take on, not because we don't want to help or anything, but because we need to utilize our resources to the best that we can. So that's why looking at it, see how it makes sense, see how we can justify it and say this is the benefit that it could bring to the city as within our mission and help, then yeah, we're definitely open to that. But I do want to throw that out there, that we definitely want to be fair at the same time and make sure we don't spread ourselves out too thin, that we're missing out on other opportunities by pursuing, so many.
Any other questions, comments?
And this is the time or the place that we make recommendations for buying cameras or officers? Or is that not the place?
I would say no. This is not the place.
But we can take it into consideration
take it into consideration.
because we're gonna be having budget meetings where we're gonna bring a recommendation for the budget. So, I mean, if staff can, bring up that recommendation, see how much it's gonna cost, because it's just not one company, right? I mean, there's different, we'd have to be looking at different options, and maybe from police's standpoint too, is it needed?
One of the things we'll be doing this year is we'll be sending out to mayor and council, just like we do to our departments. We tell them, hey, bring your needs forward, get your budget sheets together. We'll also be doing that to
Purchases?
to mayor and council to let us know what items to look into in order for us to prepare those, have that ready as we go through the budget process, as opposed to, the questions coming up during, so we can prepare for those. You guys can submit, certain areas of interest to staff so that we can start looking into those. Expect something like that to come out probably next week, to kind of ask for that help from you guys.
And let's get the other half. all the way to the border, if not, up 10th Street, somewhere, you know, where people in the city can use it.
The streetscape, you mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
streetscape, yeah. Why start one half and then do it, you know, continue it, just finish it? Because it all helps bring more visitors and give them a path to explore our city, you know? Whether by walking or by bicycle, I mean, we have so many options here that we can open it up, you know, having bikes that people can rent, lease them out, or just pay a rental there on the bikes, like you do in Tucson, downtown. I know COVID brought us back. So the thing is that we got to pass COVID.
Yeah, we gotta start gearing ourselves
Yeah,
up.
opening it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have another comment kind of along the lines of Amazon. If we see the border opening soon, do you think, or I don't know if this has been brought up before, and I don't know if the city actually has a place to do this, that if there was, not a warehouse, but a location that our international, yes, our neighbors had a place to receive their packages that get delivered to Douglas. Would that, like not a housing station, but a receiving place, so that it could be delivered here in Douglas, would that help our sales revenue? Because it's kind of like you don't want to have your packages delivered in Mexico, and then once the border opens, a place for them to receive them. Because that would drive more online sales if they had a secure location to receive them. But I don't know if it would have to be a private person to do that, or something that, you know what I mean? Because you can have the non-residents to receive their packages over here, and that would credit us, wouldn't it? Because it's delivered to Douglas for sales tax.
And now I think that's happening right now, is that a lot of them purchase and are having them delivered to family. Because we know we have families on both sides of the border, and typically that's what tends to happen. I see what you're saying. I don't know really the mechanics as to if it's cheaper if I'm in Mexico versus I'm in the U.S. I would look at that as a consumer to see, hey, how much does it cost me to deliver it in Mexico if it's coming from the U.S. versus me possibly making some arrangements with family to deliver it in the Douglas side or U.S. side. So I think consumers are going to look at that and see what's more convenient to them and see what's going to happen. I understand there's shipping boxes at the Circle K.
I saw that, yeah.
That you can have your packages delivered there if you don't have like a physical address, because I understand that Amazon doesn't deliver to P.O. boxes or anything like that, but I think there's some form of that now with Amazon doing it on their own. So
And we
I
get
think,
that sales tax revenue
yes,
because it's delivered to
because it's a
those
Douglas
places.
address,
Okay.
yes. So I get the feeling that this, if there is a business there, I think that there could something that would evolve on its own, just like Amazon did it, because they're seeing a need for it. But I wouldn't be able to tell you how the Mexican being able to deliver packages into Mexico, how that's gonna work.
Well, I was just thinking if they were delivered here for the non-residents, then we would benefit from that sales tax
And
revenue.
I think that's happening. That's
Okay,
happening.
okay.
I could tell you that much, that I mean, we know our families, and we know that's those are the, I mean, shopping, that's how I feel like some of that with COVID, a lot of shopping for family is happening right now, is that, hey, you know, you're going to Douglas, because just crossing is so limited that people are shopping for each other, and that's how things are still kind of moving along.
And see, that's what's a little concerning to me about when we talk about the budgeting. I don't think our sales tax revenue has dropped that much due to the border being closed, because families are still purchasing for them over there.
Yes.
So if we can really take that into consideration, you know, it's not going to be a huge increase once that border opens, because it's already happening. I mean, you go to Walmart during Thanksgiving and there's no turkeys, but they're selling them over there for 40, 50 bucks.
Yes.
But-
So I
yeah.
think we really need to factor that in, that we're gonna be losing that border wall income. And then the percentage is not gonna go up as much as we think it is, because it's already happening, to your
Yeah.
point. So I think we need to be, thank goodness we built such a cushion, but we need to be very careful in that budgeting process when we start planning for next year, fiscal
And-
year.
I see like also, it's like when if I go to Walmart, once a week, I probably spend less than if I go 3 times a week. So, just because, oh, look, I needed this, I needed that, so I see as more trips that come across, more potential for sales tax. But COVID kind of brought this out of out of necessity, that we needed to adjust the way we needed to do things. But certainly, I feel that the more trips, the more people crossing, the more potential for revenue. But also agree that they are adjusting, and that the contractors played a big part in them, in us having a good first half of the year.
I know 3 people off the top of my head whose full-time job now, after COVID, it is to come and shop for others.
Oh, really?
And they make so much money,
Even the gas.
so much money.
The
Gas, gasolina para el carro, groceries para las tienditas, and just personal shopping. So they are the one, you was sitting there and you looked at that right before. 3 people, full-time job, and they make so much money. So it is coming, not 10 people coming at once, but 1 people shopping for 10. So
Yeah.
the money's still coming.
So we
And I
have
think
Uber
that, yeah.
Eats. Uber Eats here, huh? International.
No, but that'd be a good way for us to market it to, and then tell the businesses, why don't you become one of those drop-off places for like
That's what I was
FedEx and.
thinking, the FedEx store, the UPS
Totally.
store, because we can drive some more and they're already existing. I mean, selling them the idea, and they could just do their little surcharge, but then it'll drive the deliveries here and drive the devil's revenue, our sales tax revenue. So maybe them just expanding a little bit from their own operation. That, when you go out into the public talking to them, hey, thinking about this, because every little bit counts.
Yeah.
Every little bit counts.
We can even promote to those people that come and shop for others to come and pick up packages.
And say, oh, hey, you have a.
Oh, you have not, it will happen. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of potential, because I think we all have family members that ask for the address. Like, can I mail something to you? They live in a walk back. And if they had a place, maybe they would do it even more.
Exactly. When you talk about the foot
Way
truck,
more.
if we have a location, then be like, okay, I'll just send it, and then now that I can cross, I'll go pick it up.
I think that's the
And
way
it's
to
more
go.
secure.
Because we market to all of it, right, but we just market sort of like the city and the restaurants and, the businesses market themselves, but I wonder if we can market, if you order something online, you could just cross and pick it up, instead of asking that family member, instead of just going to Amazon, instead of bringing those specific businesses for that hub there. I mean, just drop it off at, and, give the addresses. I mean, we have a business here that has the FedEx drop off,
We have FedEx and UPS store. We have 2 locations already. Just sell them the idea of how they can
There's
do it.
a lot of potential in there, a lot of potential.
We just really need to get creative on how we're gonna compensate for this loss of revenue that's coming very quickly.
all good points and good ideas. I'll pick on Mr. Cordova,
No, I'm taking it all in. A lot of ideas here.
Are you shopping online?
Not right now.
Oh, I do all the time.
Now, I'm local, I'm always at the stores as much as I can, supporting their stores.
Any other discussions, ideas? And like since you, Mr. Pedrosa, made it public as far as like the council and giving us ideas to what we budget, we have 2 council members here, so if you have any ideas, let me or Mr. Balanegro know about what our ideas to fund it. Because again, we work for the constituents, you guys are constituents, so, whatever we can do to help businesses, I think that's why I like this diverse group, because it's not just about helping out the city and, just thinking about the port of entry. If we don't have businesses to go to, who's gonna wanna set up at the port of entry, right? So, any ideas, greatly appreciated. Any other discussion? Thank you for the presentation. Item number 5 on the agenda, adjournment. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Valenzuela moves to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Valenzuela, seconded by Mrs. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This meeting is adjourned at 6:25.
Welcome. Thank you for being on the.